You can do that. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We are studying Torah this morning, and it seems like there's a glare on my screen. I don't know why. Maybe I need that thing. There seems to be a glare on my screen. But Nani, we're here. We're learning about the mitzvah of the sending away the mother bird, which is very time appropriate because today is Chitas, today is Chumash, talks about Noach sending away the raven, and then he sends away the dove. So, yeah, exactly. That's all about the mitzvah of the day. Thank you so much. I'm going to move my screen a moment here, guys. Bear with me. I think it's a lot better, actually. Thank you. Oh, but I can't see David. But David, if you can move over to the side, that'd be great. Okay. So, oh, can you give me book 8? I need book 8. Find it. Okay. So we learned about the mitzvah of sending away the mother bird. And let's see what we do about it. Now, this is a biblical commandment, we said, right? It's a biblical commandment to send away the mother bird when you want to get the eggs. Oh, Lord, it's book number 9. Sorry.
Question. So you're only supposed to send her away when you want the eggs to eat.
Well, that's what we're going to figure out right now.
You mentioned something about that yesterday. And some people just go and they send away the mother bird and put the eggs, whether they want to eat them or not.
Exactly. So that's what we're going to figure out. When does it apply? We said it does not apply when you have, when it's a non-kosher bird. Right? Here. Okay, let's figure this out. You ready? This mitzvah comes right after the prohibition against cross-dressing. You know it's a prohibition for a man to wear women's clothing? And it's a prohibition for a woman to wear men's clothing. Did you know that? Yes, indeed. This is a biblical mitzvah. Any day that you don't wear women's clothing, you're doing a mitzvah. Yep. Any day that a woman's not wearing man's clothing, she's doing a mitzvah. Think about that. I mean,
starting off with the mitzvah already.
Right there. Okay. Let's do this. The mitzvah to send away the mother bird. I found it in the Sefer HaChinuch, the book of education. Okay. The scriptural passage of Shiluch HaKan begins with the prohibition of you shall not take the mother bird with the young. If one takes the entire nest, which means the mother bird and her chicks, he violates the prohibition according to the Chinuch. In order to benefit from the nest, one must perform the mitzvah of sending away the mother bird first, and then he may take the chicks or the eggs for himself. Now, we're commanded not to take, good morning, Corey and Elaine. We're commanded not to take a bird's nest in its entirety, rather taking the bird, with the bird with the chicks or the eggs, rather, first send away the mother bird and then take away the young. As it says, Lo tikach ha'im al habanim, you should not take the mother bird together with the young. Now, what are the laws, the details, the purpose? Let's talk about the purpose and the laws. Some of the underlying purposes of the mitzvah and some of its laws, as well as its universal concept. I've written in the mitzvah obligation of this parshas Kiseitze. You can see it over there. Ooh. All the mitzvah obligations mitzvah number 6. Hold on. Hang on. 545. One second. Here it is. Oh, here it is. What am I doing here? Oh, here it is. Okay. All right. Here's the underlying purpose of the mitzvah. There are several approaches to understanding the rationale behind the mitzvah of sending away the mother bird. What do you think the reason is? What's the reason? Why do you have to send away the mother bird? How about the mother goat? There's no mitzvah to send away the mother goat before you take her young. Think about it. If it's compassion, it would apply to kosher and non-kosher birds.
You're taking the eggs, not the young birds.
What? It's either eggs or young birds, as long as they are dependent on the mother and they can't fly. Why not? Do you want to raise them? You want to sell them? You want to eat them? I don't know.
Maybe
Because that way the mother will go out and make more little babies.
Well, what's up? The mitzvah doesn't seem to make any sense.
No, that's
How about if you go to a puppy shop and you buy a puppy, do you have to send away the mother before you buy the puppy? Think about it.
I can understand taking the eggs because she got to eat. Send her away.
Is this a rational mitzvah?
Most of them
No.
aren't rational. Just do it because you're supposed to.
So you think, is it a mishpat or a chok? Is it a logical mitzvah or is it a decree mitzvah?
It's like a decree.
So as Chinuch will state below, some view the mitzvah as a decree without a known reason. So no logical reason. Others maintain that it does have a discernible rationale and they provide several explanations. So Maimonides and Nachmanides, though each one proposes his own explanation, both link the mitzvah of Shiloh Hakan with the prohibition to slaughter an animal and its child on the same day. There is a different prohibition, mitzvah 294, to slaughter a mother and child on the same day. If you're going to slaughter them, at least do it on 2 different days. So it's some sort of compassion. One of the ideas that Nachmanides suggests is that taking the mother bird along with the chicks ostensibly in order to slaughter both represents the destruction of the species. It's like killing a family, similar to slaughtering an animal and its child in one day. Multiple generations of a species, in particular mother and child, are symbolic of the propagation of the species, and slaughtering both at once thus represents disregard for the species as a whole. Now think about it. A lot of people when I meet a vegetarian, nobody here vegetarian. You're not vegetarian, right?
Just in between when I eat meat.
Oh, okay, fine. So a vegetarian told me once that they're not cruel. They don't kill animals. As if to imply to me that I am cruel, like to try to guilt me into somehow,
I didn't kill
to somehow guilt me into saying like you're a rabbi, you should also be kind to animals.
Well,
And then I said to them, what gives you the right to murder vegetables? What gives you the right to manipulate sheep for wool? What gives you the right to steal their resources just because you want to be warm? I think you should sleep with a grass blanket. In fact, not even grass, because you'd be raping the earth. You should sleep naked.
well, do the animals have more feelings than a tree?
So that's what they asked me. I said, well, just because you're blind to the feelings of a tree doesn't mean the tree doesn't have feelings.
Sure. There's a whole.
Maybe you're the. I read a book yesterday. The guy writes. He was writing about a certain kind of sea creature that rhymes with mobster, and he said that if that species ever evolved consciousness, he would become the Joseph Stalin of the species because of the amount of them that he ate.
You heard of the Secret Life of Trees or something like
No.
that? It's really interesting. It's about how nature and how it interacts and how it actually
Has much more consciousness than you think.
Yeah.
So the chinuch expresses the same idea, but he explains that it is intended to teach us a positive lesson. In other words, it's not about not destroying the species, but namely that God desires and therefore directs the continued existence of all the species in creation. As we refrain from slaughtering an animal and its child, we acknowledge and internalize God's wondrous care and guidance of the world. Chinuch explains the mitzvah of Shiloh Hakan in a similar vein. So let's take a look how he explains this.
Maybe that's what the brachos are for. If you're going to kill a tree or kill an animal, you're thanking the Lord for that nourishment because you have to eat something.
Well, I want to explain to you what I learned this morning in Tanya. Tanya chapter 37 tells us like this, that the tree actually wants you to kill it. The animal actually wants you to kill it.
Is that today's portion?
No, that's my portion, my schedule. The tree actually wants you to kill it. The animal wants you to slaughter it. Why? You see, you're looking at me like I fell off the moon. The reason is because there are 4 strata within creation. There's the lowest level of consciousness, which is the inanimate. More conscious is the flora. More conscious is the fauna, the animal. And above that is the human. None of them, or all of them are stuck beneath their glass ceiling. Only the human, in fact, only the Jew who has a godly soul straddles both lanes, where he has part creation and part creator. Your body and your animal soul represents creation. Your godly soul represents the Creator. And together you are the fulcrum between heaven and earth. The Jew is the one that can sanctify the mundane, that can sublimate the simplistic, that can incorporate creation within Creator. How do you do that? When you take a cup of coffee and it motivates you to get out of bed early and to study Torah, what happens? Then that coffee bean, that milk, that water is now incorporated into your Torah study. So the coffee bean, the water, the inanimate, the milk, which is the cow, the animal kingdom. You got 3 kingdoms right here, 4 kingdoms. The human, who's learning Torah, the animal, which is the cow, the coffee bean, which is the tree, and the water, which is the inanimate. All of the above are now incorporated in your Torah study. What you're doing is that you're actually sanctifying not only that individual coffee tree or coffee bush, not only the coffee tree, not only that particular cow, but in fact representing the whole cow species, in fact representing the whole animal species, the whole tree species, the whole water inanimate species, and the whole human being. All of that is actually sanctified when you study Torah. But to study Torah, you got to do it consciously. That's why we say a blessing. You make a blessing before the study of Torah. And you make a blessing over the coffee. That everything was created through your speech. And what happens is that by drinking the coffee consciously, not just because you're tired, but because you want to do this in service of God, what you've now done is that you've actually sublimated all of those individual beings. Now, if that cow would have landed up in the hands of a Gentile, not that there's anything wrong with the Gentiles, it would never have been elevated. If it landed up in the hands of an unconscious Jew, it would never have been elevated. If it got spilled down the drain, it would never have been elevated.
If it wasn't killed in a kosher way, it wouldn't have been.
Well, to drink milk, the cow doesn't need to be killed in a kosher way.
I meant to eat.
To eat the meat, yeah. If it wasn't killed in a kosher way, then it wouldn't be sublimated. So the universe is actually yearning to be elevated. It's waiting for the Jew to make his move. There was a story I shared with my kids on Shabbos about a trip that the Baal Shem Tov took. He told one of his students, his young disciple, that we're going on a trip and to the town of Leipzig. And now the student was excited because he thought he'd visit his parents over there. The Baal Shem Tov instinctively said to him, "You won't have time to visit your parents." He read his mind. They go along the way, long story, but they stop at a way. They go. He tells the horse driver, carriage driver, that as soon as they're outside the city of Mezhebush, you can fall asleep, leave go the reins of the horse. You can go to sleep, and the horse goes its own way. This is typical of the Baal Shem Tov's Ubers. So the horse goes hours and hours, and he goes off the path into a forest, deep into a forest, and then the horse stops. So the Baal Shem Tov disembarks and he listens for a brook, for a stream of water. He goes over the stream, he fills up water, makes a beautiful blessing, he drinks it, and then he makes an after blessing, and they leave. And the student is mystified. What happened? Like, why do we have to travel 8 hours to get to that stream of water? The Baal Shem Tov later explained to him that stream of water was waiting since its creation for a blessing to be made on it, but never in the history of the world has a history been made in that a blessing be made in that stream of water, and it was about to go extinct. It was about to dry up. I needed to go there in order to sanctify it, to fulfill its purpose. In the same way, the animals, the same way we look at animals. Oh, he's going to die. You're going to be kind to the animal. There is truth to that, to the compassion, right? You're not allowed to hunt and kill animals for no reason. You're not allowed to be cruel to animals. But if you're killing the animal, what gives you the right to kill an animal to eat it? I said to somebody the other day, in 100 years from now, the woke movement is going to be toppling our statues because we are chicken assassins. We murder chickens, and we even eat them. Can you imagine? You know, today we talk about Thomas Jefferson who had slaves. In his days, it was normal. It was normal, right? Today, it's normal to eat chickens. It's normal. KFC, that's what they do. They sell chickens, right? But in 100 years, then it will be so barbaric. What gives you the right to kill a chicken? Now, if you're eating it, because you're eating it because you want to eat it. Okay, so what? Can't do that to another human being. Like what? Well, or gives you the right. But when you're doing it in order to serve God, in order to serve a higher purpose, philosophically, it's being sublimated, right? And the chicken actually wants to be sublimated. And the chicken wants you to eat it consciously, not unconsciously. So when you apply that concept in terms of slaughtering the mother bird on the same day, a mother animal on the same day as you slaughter the baby, or chasing away the mother bird in order to take the chicks, it gives you a little more context on why you're doing it. A little bit more context, right? Let's just take a little bit, just 2 more minutes about where the chinuch is going with this. Among the underlying purposes of this mitzvah is for us to impress upon our hearts the fact that the Almighty's supervision, blessed be He, is trained on all His creations. In regard to mankind, it is trained on each person individually. As it is written, for His eyes are upon all of man's ways, and He sees all his steps. But with regards to other species of living creatures, like animals, His supervision is not trained on each individual animal as much as it's trained on the species in general. That is to say, that God, blessed is He, desires the continuity of each and every species. And so He supervises and watches over each species in order to ensure its survival. It follows, therefore, that no species among all the species of the creatures in the world will ever become extinct. For a thing's continued existence does not depend on natural factors, which might in fact threaten its existence, but on the providence of He who lives and endures forever, God, blessed be He, and He ensures the survival of all species that He created. The ultimate purpose of this mitzvah is for each person to take this philosophical idea and to internalize it, such that it becomes a belief that guides his life and inspires him to greater commitment to Hashem's Torah. For this, you will receive the reward mentioned in our verse, so that it will be good for you and you'll merit long life. Now, let me just explain this. On each of us, we have Hashgacha Pratis, individual divine providence. How much money are you going to make today? Your health of your left toe, right, your left baby toe, that is in the hands of Hashem. All the time. But Hashem doesn't watch over the left baby toe of a tiger in India, right, at this moment. I mean, his focus is not on it. Of course, he's part of it, but his focus is not on it because when it comes to animals, it's not where his attention is focused. His attention is on the species in general, the tigers. But when it comes to human beings, each individual human being is in his focus. And that's why we say, don't chase away don't take the kids before you chase away the mother bird, because when it comes to animals, it's the family unit that I'm worried about. But when it comes to you, it's you as an individual. So chasing away the mother bird reminds us that I matter. And that's how the chinuch explains. It's very beautiful. How do you feel about that?
I've got to sit on that for a little while.
Like, do you think God worries about every fish in the school of fish? You bunch.
He worries about the school.
What? He worries about the school. That's right. He worries about the school. But when the humpback whale comes in there and he opens his mouth, doesn't really worry so much about which fish gets in the mouth or not. He just want to make sure that the school survives, right? But when it comes to a human being, every individual email that you receive, every anxiety that you encounter is by heaven sent. All right? So we'll leave it at that. So we don't go too long here. But we'll carry this on this very beautiful mitzvah. It's going to take us some time to get through this. All right? We'll call it a day, guys. Thank you, Lauren, Elaine, and Corey. Have a lovely day, everybody. Shalom. Good Chodesh.